What's up, everybody? Welcome to the inside of our motel room here at Key West. Doing a little bit of a different format here with today's video because I don't want the disturbances of the wind from the beach, the passersby out there on the street. So forgive the lack of beautiful flora and fauna behind us. There's our artificial beach for this video. But I want to be able to speak clearly. I don't want to have to whisper as people go by. And I know some of you were having a hard time hearing with the wind on the beach. And also, I've been queasy the last 2 days, almost like some sort of stomach virus. I'm convinced Florida is ground zero for the spraying because this is where the boomers are in mass, especially in the winter. It's a retirement state. And guys, keep sending emails, keep sending me what you're finding. I'm going to read you a bunch of what has come in over the last few days. I'm getting caught up on emails we've missed because of this trip. But I'm fine in the grand scheme of things, and we're still going to go out and do what we're going to do here today at Key West. But I feel a bit off, and I am very healthy. I have a healthy diet. I exercise daily. I don't abuse substances. I know my body. I've been a lifelong athlete. Something's not right here, and I can't help but think it has something to do with the gazillion chemtrails we've been seeing since we've entered Florida. It was the thickest in northern Florida around Jacksonville, FYI. But I'm convinced Florida's ground zero for the thinning of the herd. So let me get to it. We've got a story coming in from Bugman22 this morning. He says, "Hey, Kevin, you need to look into the North Carolina rescue efforts." And we have a much more detailed message about that coming here later in the show, too. Bugman continues, "I saw a guy who has rescue dogs. He was saying they are dying and that the horses involved in the rescue are very, very sick and may not survive. He said, if you think they are trying to hide something from us, and that is why they were not doing anything to aid people in the area, it's because there is something they don't want us to know." He continues, "This has to be related to the fog and the animals passing." He says, "I have to be honest with you. I thought this was all a play on people, like some other issues. But this is serious, and there's something going on. Maybe you have some followers from that area, and they can shed some light on it. I'm trying to find a story on Instagram I saw where they're talking about all this and blah, blah, blah. Please don't use my real name." You're welcome, or Bugman22, thank you for sending that in to us. So, still stuff going on in North Carolina in the aftermath of the floods, the fogs, rescue dogs dying off, horses getting sick. I'm going to read now an email that came in from Corby. Corby writes, "Kevin, I watched your video today and thought I would email you about what is happening to us here in Washington State." So it's out in the Pacific Northwest, other side of the country. "I have smelt the chemical burning smell one time a couple weeks ago. It did not last long, and I really didn't think much of it. We have oodles and gobs of rain and fog here in the Pacific Northwest this time of year, and it's hard to tell if they are chemtrailing us. My entire family has been sick roughly every 3 to 4 days since the 1st of January. Mainly coughing and phlegm. Then the vomiting started with me last Thursday night. I am almost 51 and rarely vomit, so this was strange to me. It came on within a matter of minutes, and I am still under the weather today. What I now find very strange is that our 2 cats and our dog are vomiting, laying around and seem very tired and needing rest. I haven't hardly left my bed since Thursday evening and have slept most of it, and they seem to be the same way. I am the last one to get this in my family. Also strange. Thank you for the daily videos. I've been watching most of them. You can use my first name if you end up reading this in a video. Sincerely, Corby." So, this is something that's affecting people and pets, and not just pets, but also livestock. And I want to thank another nurse, registered nurse, Kim, for sending me this. Okay, she sent me an email. She says, "Get your N95 mask now, or it will be too late. Or a respirator. This is probably the new little C. Expect so much worse. Thank goodness I'm bowing out of nursing now. Being a healthcare worker is like being a crash test dummy." And then, so she sent me a screenshot that was talking about, let me go to it, because I Googled it. Again, folks, anytime I bring you any information, I'm not going to accept like a screenshot of a Twitter post or Rumble or Facebook or any of this stuff. I will do a Google and pull multiple sources. So this was not it. Let me, or was it? Hold on. Was she talking about? No, she was not talking about the Hachu. Oh yes, here it is. I copied and pasted it, so I wouldn't have. That's why I closed out the browser. It's not the Hachu she's warning us about. Listen, she's talking about an outbreak of tuberculosis, okay, in Kansas. And I got this from today.com. Here's what I copied and pasted from today.com. Kansas is dealing with one of the largest outbreaks of tuberculosis recorded in a single year in the United States since the 1950s, state officials say. As of January 24, so just 2 weeks ago, at least 67 people are being treated for active tuberculosis related to the Kansas outbreak, Jill Bronoff, communications director of KDHE, said in an update on January 29th. Additionally, the outbreak killed two people in 2024. And ironically, I mentioned that I'm feeling a bit under the weather. That's why I'm kind of in the room today. I don't want to be under the chemtrails while I'm bringing you this delivery. There was an older gentleman out, we could hear on the porch in front of our room from the couple rooms down, coughing so bad. And this is before I even got online this morning. I said to my wife, I said, that guy out there sounds like he's got tuberculosis. And I was thinking, wow, that's an old school disease. Then I got this email from Kim and then read these articles that I've just shared with you, one from today.com. And it's just got to make you wonder. And all right, we got an email from Lisa who sent us a heartbreaking picture of a dead owl in a driveway in Billington, Massachusetts. Now, this was a Facebook post, but it was from a group that I've been following since this Hachu thing has really taken off. It's up in, it's called All Things Plymouth on Facebook, I think it's called. I shared in a video last week about how all the geese are dying at the pond. So this is from that Facebook page. Picture of a dead owl, and the caption read, "We haven't seen the hawks or eagles in days. Almost all the swans are dead." Hachu. All right, now here comes a very questioning email from Stephanie in South Jersey. A little bit of information in here as well that can help us all. Then I'm going to read the ringer of the day, which comes to us, as Bugman22 was alluding at the beginning of this video, from North Carolina. So Stephanie writes, "Hi Kevin, do you remember only 5 to 10 years ago when chemtrails were an alleged conspiracy? I ask you this now because it seems like they are just spraying out in the open, not even trying to hide it anymore." Well, of course not, because 5 to 10 years ago when it was a conspiracy, and I remember when that all started, they were able to, again, use the reasoning behind the term conspiracy theory anyway to make everybody laugh at those who would question it. Anybody that would say, oh, they're spraying us with chemicals to thin the herd, to take out the older, aged, unhealthy people because they're a burden on the healthcare system. Well, all they had to do was tell you that you're a conspiracy theorist. Well, then you'd stop talking about it, right? The term conspiracy theory was created by the government after the JFK assassination. When people didn't want to believe the script that they were being given from the government, well, the government figured out, hey, if we call them a dirty, nasty word, and I made a lengthy video about this months ago, it goes back to what they learned from the Great Red Scare. Nobody wanted to be called a communist, even if everybody knew they weren't a communist. They didn't want that. Well, people soon learned that nobody wanted to be called a conspiracy theorist. So the minute you talk about something, the minute you question authority or what's going on, and they say, oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, what do? You stop questioning. You stop talking about it. So yeah, Stephanie, 5 to 10 years ago, too many people were talking about the chemtrails, so they labeled them all conspiracy theorists. So now, of course, they're spraying in the open like they're not even trying to hide it because everybody's afraid to question it. She continues, today here in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, drones were spraying in the sky all day long. My house is under an American Airlines route to Philly International, and you can clearly see a bunch of nothing in the planes up in the sky. We are waking up to reality. So empty planes, unmanned aerial aircraft, drones spraying all over the place. Stephanie continues, my husband, cat, and I don't feel anything other than a little fatigue at times, thank God. Literally, my beloved wild bird families seem okay to date. But what on earth are they spraying and why? I know that you've shared some great theories lately. Anyhow, feel free to read my email if you wish. Thank you for all you report on and do for the general public. Kind regards, Stephanie, South Jersey. Now here comes the doozy. Folks, and before I read into this and without giving you any spoilers, what this next email from Joe, a veteran, by the way, Joe, thank you for your service, brings to mind is this ideology of this concept of what do they call them, smart cities, where the World Economic Forum says that the most desirable way for humans to live would to be to where they're within 15 minutes of everything they need. Of course, which would make us dependent upon the government or the government services completely. They don't want people who live like my family does, living 30 minutes out of the city, out in the country where they have land for themselves, fresh water sources, plenty of food sources with gardens, orchards, livestock, wild animals that we can harvest. So keep that in mind, this concept, this new push towards smart cities. Joe writes, Kevin, like you, I'm the same age, same service MOS, that would be 11 Bravo infantry in the Army, and found out that yes, U.S. Army National Guard troops can be sent to combat zones. Here's what a lot of folks don't know. Typically, it's National Guards that's first to go. I remember there were tents over in Iraq that said of National Guard units, they had signs up that said 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, my ass, as they were into their 15th month of deployment in Iraq or Afghanistan. It wouldn't surprise me if we weren't born in the same month, Joe continues. We sure act the same. However, unlike you, I'm still in the game, a detail that will come into play later. Anyway, appreciate your channel, and I wanted to share some forgotten parts of the Helene story that happened during the 2-week period before Helene. Guys, listen closely. People in Asheville and the surrounding areas of western North Carolina and East Tennessee seem to forget the strange fires that started in the weirdest places to the west, north, and east of Asheville right before Helene. Those fires were preceded by even stranger lights in the sky from mile marker 420 on the Blue Ridge Parkway down to the ridge of Little Pisgah. I would often see the lights myself. Plus, we had several UFO reports coming in from all over Asheville during the months leading up to the fire. Some of these reports can be found online if one cares to look. So before Helene comes in, lights in the sky, fires. We were highly concerned about these fires, one near Canton/Clyde that was threatening to come over the mountains into the National Forest, and several I heard about going north to ET and some to the east out of Old Fort. The week before the initial pre-flood to Helene's arrival, one fire started out of nowhere just right down from our house. The reason I remember this is because they shut off the internet to the area right before the fire started, and I had to go into town to a remote office to finish work. Interesting how the internet just gets shut down before a disaster strikes. Is that to knock out communications? Hey, I'm a combat veteran. I know that one of the first things we do when we go to war with someone is we take out their communication so they can't call for backup once we do worse things to them. Keep that in mind. There's a lot of tells in this story. Joe continues. On the way back, I saw U.S. Forest Service trucks behind me going at high speeds, even though they did not have their lights on, as if they didn't want anybody to know they were coming. He probably wouldn't have seen them if he wasn't out on the road. I knew something was up and let them by. When I got down to my house, there were all kinds of folks dealing with this fire I had never seen before. Traffic was backed up on this little mountain road for about a quarter of a mile. I pulled a U-turn, parked my truck, and turned on my hazards. I used my little white government club card and other ID to walk up to the deputies and first responders. FYI, Joe, I'm assuming you're referring to a military ID because my military ID is white. Upon asking, no one knew exactly how the fire started. They were guessing a vehicle started it, but this was up in the woods on a hill. The area was already on high alert due to other fires. We simply could not take another fire. We had not had water or rain in weeks. That night, I looked over the Blue Ridge and saw the same light that had hovered there for the past few weeks before rising up or floating away to disappear. The light was prismatically multicolored, unlike the standard red port left, green side right I see on planes, drones, and boats. The next day it began raining, and it rained constantly for several days. The fires were out, but the flooding was so bad that I couldn't drive into Asheville the way I normally would arrive. People were posting photos on how bad the flooding had become, and it was a relief that the rains had finally stopped. Asheville was just soaked. However, the break was just the beginning. A few days later, Helene hit the area, and we still have not recovered. Which brings me to current times, and this is a key point. Folks, you'll remember how I prefaced all of this with a little reminder of what they're trying to do with this smart city agenda, right? Pay very close attention. Like the mayor of LA, the mayor of Asheville had no idea what she was doing and largely stayed in the background. People forgot she was born in Denmark and later raised in California. And she's the mayor of this small North Carolina town? Interesting. In addition, here, the city council and most of the county board all know each other, live near each other, and go to similar religious events. Most are into real estate, and she herself, the mayor, is a real estate lawyer. Her law firm has direct ties to both BlackRock and Vanguard investments. After Helene hit, she did the bare minimum amount of work. I do give her credit. She did at least look distressed on a few videos of her that I saw. So part of me thinks she herself didn't realize the full extent of what was happening here. However, as soon as she and the county could, they continued to permit high-density housing projects, HDPs, all around the edge of the city. Several of their original HDHPs flooded away during the initial 3 days of flooding and then later with Helene. When men, tools, and equipment should have been designated to fix the homes and properties of both residents and small business owners, she, the council, and the board helped to greenlight more land clearing for housing projects. The rate they had been doing this was unbelievable. Even with the water supply still poisoned, the public report was 80% redacted on the last known public test, and tests done by farmers here show the water is still highly toxic. But despite this, they are pushing to have more and more people visit Asheville this summer as well. A quick perusal of local YouTubers like Highway Ghost can show your viewers how bad the area still is, even as recently as yesterday. We do not need more people visiting here. The area needs time to heal. Why is she pushing so hard to develop pristine Appalachian lands into high-density housing development just a few minutes outside of downtown when we should be repairing infrastructure? How did all this happen at once? Who does this woman really work for, Joe writes? Us or someone else? I simply don't know. As of yesterday, they cleared an entire mountain forest in only a week to put in more people. Mind you, they still haven't recovered from all the devastation. Well, Kevin, that's it. Love your channel, but I just wanted to get this story out there because there was a lot that happened here even right before Helene hit, and the people should know the actual story of Asheville and its corrupt government. Thanks. Please don't include my real name. Just call me Joe. So there. You now know here at the end of the video, his real name's not Joe, but that's what he has to be called. So, again, I'm thinking smart cities, the diabolical plan to herd us all together like cattle so that we're completely dependent upon them and their services, thin the herd by spraying and chemtrailing the aged, unhealthy part of the populace who for years, for the best 30 or 40 years of their lives, the majority of the baby boomers worked somewhere and contributed greatly to society, contributed greatly to the economy. But as far as the healthcare industry goes, were viewed merely as profits while they took their litany of prescriptions that they told, oh no, this is better than healthy diet and exercise. Just take this tablet and keep working 60 hours a week to make us rich. Well, now that they're retired or they're disabled, and they're certainly so many of them so unhealthy, they become a liability. So why not spray to get rid of them? Thin the herd, corral the rest into the smart cities. And something else I thought of while reading Joe's email here about the leadership of his area is an old saying, and you probably heard it, that sometimes to save the village, you first must burn the entire village down. Scary when you put all this stuff together. So folks, thank you for sending me your emails. If you've got something you want to share with us, you can email the channel. The email address is crazylake@mail.com. If you want to be kept anonymous, let us know. We won't use your name. Give us permission to share your story and your name if you don't mind us using your name. I'll tell you, I'm going to be keeping my eyes open down here. And again, I mentioned the old man out here coughing, sounding like he had tuberculosis. I'm watching the people down here as much as I am the skies, because there's a lot of boomers down here. So I'll keep you updated from what I am considering to be ground zero here in Florida, where they're spraying the hell out of the skies like nowhere we saw, all the way coming down the East Coast from Virginia at least. We weren't as far north as Jersey when we started this trip. But I'll keep you updated. You keep me updated, because we're all in this together. See you for more next time.